Hey there, teachers. Welcome to my channel. My name is Marion Busfield of Engaging Curiosity. The videos on this channel support beginning teachers and all teachers with evidence-based classroom management strategies. I loved my time in the classroom, and I was privileged to spend close to 19 years with students in a variety of contexts. I started off actually teaching when I was a homeschooling mom, and that's not included in that 19 years. But it really gave me a lot of insights into how it feels to carry the future and education of children on your shoulders, and the work that goes into teaching and creating engaging lessons. And I learned how much I loved it. Later on, when my children were more grown, I became a classroom assistant. Shortly after receiving that job, I was actually hired on as well as the district supervisor for literacy program in our area, so in all the schools in our school district. Um, at the end of 2 years doing both those things, I just felt called to go back to school and get my teaching degree. After I received that, I have taught in various capacities within the classroom context for K-9, and also I worked as a literacy support and learning support teacher. And my final 5 years were in teaching in a grade 1 to multi-grade classroom. And I loved it all. It was all very different, and I learned so much of it. With a variety of specialist diplomas and many, many conferences that I was privileged to go to because of my job in special ed as a special ed coordinator, I have learned and culled from the wisdom of many, many experts. Teachers, yes, experienced teachers, wonderful experienced teachers, some of whom became professors and did a lot of research later on, but also from neurologists, including the chair of Canada's Brain Research Council, speech language pathologists, trauma specialists, math specialists, everyone. There's so much wisdom was shared, and wisdom that I want to share with you to make your classroom management run smoothly and give you back your weekends by simplifying your classroom management. This training should be available, the training I received should be available to all teachers. And my passion now is to create opportunities for you to draw from those experts, or to draw from me what I learned from those experts and as they shared with me. So with all that being said, let's dive into today's topic. So today I want to share with you about implementing positive reinforcement in the classroom. In my mind, this is one of the most rewarding aspects of teaching because yes, we get to teach content, and I love teaching content. I love teaching math. I love teaching art, science, social studies, creating big projects, movement and games. I love all of that. But positive reinforcement is where I know I get to impact how a child sees themselves as they move forward in life, and I get to enable the best that is within them, and I love that. So I want to explore with you how this powerful tool can transform your classroom. Before I dig into that, though, I just want to say there are many joys that come out of positive reinforcement. As I mentioned, giving your students tools to go forward in life. And more specifically than that, one of the things that I love about it is watching the impact of positive reinforcement on your quiet students. Because, often in our classroom, we have the tyranny of the urgent. We've got the loud students that are blurting, or the behavioral students, or the students who are struggling academically. What I love about positive reinforcement is it's a powerful tool with the students that are working on no longer blurting, that they are working on their behavior, and you're impacting all of that. And as wonderful as it is to see those students grow and feel better about themselves and change these behaviors, it's the quiet students that so easily get forgotten because they're not behavioral, and it's easy to forget about them. But what happens is you calm the rest of the behavior and quiet the rest of the behavior in the class. These students, even without a whole lot of extra attention other than the positive reinforcement that everybody's getting, these students start to blossom. I remember a shy, kind little girl who slowly found her voice as I implemented positive reinforcement in the classroom. And over 2 years, she gained the confidence to volunteer answers, and then and she began to embrace the growth that started to happen in her. And then she took chances. She started volunteering to participate when she knew she might even make a mistake. And as we know, mistakes are where a lot of learning happens. And so that's an important part of learning in a classroom. And watching that transformation and then seeing that her parents could see that at home, as they wrote me later in a card, that is gold in the classroom and just fills me up inside. So positive reinforcement involves rewarding students for good choices. Now, some people choose to reward with small tokens. What I'm talking about here is affirming words. And these rewards encourage desired behaviors to recur. So now both are evidence-based, the small tokens and the affirming words. I know that the small tokens are evidence-based. I, for a very brief period of time, used tokens. I cannot say that I personally have experienced them with any success because they just do not work with my brain. I just keeping track. I mean, I'm not one for check marks on a board. I'm not one for just being consistent. And I think consistency is so important when we're working with students so that they know what to expect, when to expect it. That brings about the desired behavior. So I never used tokens, and you know, there are other ways that people use them that are less evidence-based. They take an evidence-based strategy and they tweak it a little bit, and then it's no longer the strategy that they're hoping to see, because research looks at things very specifically. And so anyways, it's not, tokens are not authentic to me. And that's a big thing in teaching, is you have to use something, strategies that are really authentic to you. There's 1,000 strategies out there, and some of them achieve the same purpose. You have to choose what's authentic to you. So anyways, positive reinforcement is very authentic to me. Uh, and not that I didn't have to learn and work hard to consistently practice it, but it's authentic to me. I believe deeply in its power. Okay, so now let's go on to the next part about talking about authentic praise. So the first point in implementing positive reinforcement in the classroom is the power of specific praise matters. And we're not saying, oh, good work, that's too generic. Not that you saying good work is going to harm a child, but it's just not going to be have much of an impact. It's specificity works. So it might be like good remembering is powerful. You still got the good word in there, but you're being specific about what's good, or even getting rid of the good. Wow, I can really see how hard you've worked at that. Or, wow, your writing has improved so much. You're really applying what we talked about. Some of those are longer, and we don't have time for, a lot of those every day, 1,000 of those every day, which in a primary classroom you're kind of really working towards. Sometimes, it's much shorter. Good perseverance. Thank you for hanging up your coat. Good kindness. Thank you for helping your friend. Just, but very specific. And okay, then are we always going to remember to say that? Is it never going to be good job? No. Again, if it's consistently specific, then when they hear good job, less frequently, they're still going to know that what they've done is authentically good, but in that they're going to receive the good job in a different, deeper way, as long as the majority, like 80% of the positive reinforcement, is specific. And then as far as your feedback throughout the day, none of us have 100% days. None of us have days where we don't have to speak challengingly to our students at all. And none of us have days that we don't have to breathe deeply once or twice or 10 times. So you're aiming for a 4-to-1 ratio of positive to negative feedback. And that can be challenging, especially in some of the more high demand classrooms. But research says that that's kind of the happy place, right? That's the effective ratio. So remembering even a concise acknowledgement, even though it's short, as long as it's authentic and specific, that's what really matters. So not every student makes the principal's list, uh, but that's why number 2 is recognizing effort and improvement. Recognizing these two things shows students that perseverance is invaluable in their lives. This reinforces the importance of continual learning, and it also communicates to your student, I see you, and you may be working on addition and subtraction while everybody else is working on multiplication. I get it. Or you still may be working on place value to 100 when we're working on a place value to 1,000. I get it. But wow, you're really getting that place value to 100. Valuing them for who they are as individuals is potent to the students. And you're developing their character, their perseverance, their mindset, as much as more than you're developing their academic growth. Although the research, the evidence does show that this also supports academic growth. So factor number 3 is related to number 2, and it's that positive reinforcement isn't just about academic growth. It includes praising kindness, honesty, perseverance, all those character development areas. And these affirmations boost self-esteem and support character development. And this is doing the whole student, supporting the whole student. These are the 60-year lessons, long before they forgot the parts of the body of the frog, or the phases of the moon. They are going to remember that it is socially appropriate to be kind to others. So hand in hand with positive reinforcement, you want to create a culture of peer reinforcement, because you're teaching them, you're modeling this behavior. This is part of what you're teaching them. And as you teach this to them, this skill set that will carry them through life, you're also building a culture within your classroom that helps them to succeed socially, emotionally, academically. It nurtures them in all the areas. So encourage your students to express kind words to peers. Not only does this reinforce the positive behaviors, but it also bonds the classroom community. And so there are the moment by moment opportunities. So for example, as I nurture in my classroom, I remember one little boy, for example, walking by and helping, just he was on his way to what he needed to do, on to way to his job, and he saw another student struggling to sign in on the computer. So he just reached in and he helped her. They weren't specifically friends. Unless they were assigned to work together, they're not somebody that typically hung out a lot in class, but he was just being kind and supportive to his peers. And we want to create that culture in the classroom. So there are those moments that you affirm and you recognize, and the students learn that that's what you want in the culture, and you nurture that. But then there are also those moments that you create that build a peer reinforcement culture. So a couple of examples in my classroom. The first one is right before Christmas and the year end, I had these sheets, and they were just decorated around the outside room for a student's name, and every student had one, and they put it on their desk. And then we would do a carousel walk, or a gallery walk, however you want to call it, and they'd walk from desk to desk. And we'd already brainstormed kind language to speak to peers, words of affirmation for our peers. And they would look at something, they'd look at the name of the paper on the desk, and they'd look at the board, or they'd think in their head, and they'd write down something, a reason that they valued and appreciated that student in their classroom. Now, I'll be honest, some of them uh, were very repetitious, because some of the kids, their peers found them really challenging, but everybody had a page full of affirmations. I did have one student one time, still don't know who the student was, that put one unkind word on another student's paper. And so fortunately it was caught, and I addressed the whole class, and I said, I don't know who did this. I don't want to know who did this. Let's talk about why this is not a good choice. And I know that you feel really uncomfortable with doing this. I can only assume, now that I'm bringing it up, that you are. And that's okay. We're going to leave it here. But I want everybody to know that, of course, I'm not going to let that student see that. And so everybody is going to have a scratch out on their paper, so that nobody knows if it was said to them. When you see that scratch out, stop and think, for a moment how you would feel if that unkind word had been written on your paper, and now understand that it's irrelevant. And even if it was written on your paper, look at all the kind of words that other people wrote on your paper. And remember, listen to the loudest voice, which is the kind people that are speaking into your life. And don't listen to the people that are just being unkind. So we turned it into a teaching moment. And from then on, when I did this exercise, I shared that story, which was easy because the student was anonymous. Nobody ever knew who it was. So I didn't have to worry about that. And never had a recurrence of that. Another activity that I really like to do with my class is when Valentine's rolled around, we made our Valentines to give each other, and it was very simply done, but they were specific and authentic with what they wrote about their friend. Um, you know, they could write a bunch of things if they wanted, but one thing that had to be was one reason that they appreciated this person on Valentine's Day. Students loved it. It was a hit. Parents loved it. It was a hit. We still had a Valentine's party with all the treats that are involved, but it just took that word love that we throw around casually and made it into something real, which was really important for me because love's important in life. Number 5 is personal notes of encouragement. Personal notes can really impact students, and whether it's a quick note on an assignment or a letter home, your students will feel acknowledged and valued. And I have to confess, as I headed towards retirement, I was slowly starting to implement the more formal letters home. There was always on the report cards there were lots of affirmations, and when I spoke with parents, parent conferences were full of affirmations. Um, Concerns were raised, but I tended to listen to concerns more than raise concerns. And um, but I know from my personal experience as a parent, one time my daughter asked a question on a math test, and her math teacher in grade like 10 or 11 wrote a note on the side of the paper and continued it on a few more. And of course, when she came home and showed me her work, this wasn't a note to me, it was a note to my daughter. But my daughter, he lifted her up so much. And then I saw it, and I saw how somebody else valued my daughter, and it didn't have to be a note directly, it was a note directly to my heart. And there's great power in those personal notes. Of course, we all like public recognition, so this is number 6. And I'm not talking giving awards at the front of the class or giving out certificates. And I'm not saying those aren't research-based, evidence-based strategies. I'm saying it's way simpler and more effective to do it in a simpler, in a more frequent way, if we just let all our students hear what we have to say to our students. Now, of course, if I'm speaking quietly in a class, the immediate neighbors can definitely hear me as I lean over a student's shoulder and look at their work and speak positively to them. Or if I'm conferencing at my teacher desk, then the students in the small group there can hear me. But in my classroom, I also had a microphone necklace with speakers around the room. And so I would quietly praise students. And because the speaker was on, sometimes I'd forget to turn off, their peers could hear them. I was speaking in a very soft tone, and their peers could hear them. And this created an atmosphere of recognition and motivation. And this simple act of them knowing what their peers were, that their peers were hearing this, was very powerful to them. And this can happen in other ways too. Public recognition can look like many things. If I had a positive note, I never had substitute teachers complaining about my class. Quite the obvious opposite. I had teachers that told me, whenever I get called in, I'm just hoping it's your class because your students are great. And I had retired primary teachers in my classroom just loving to come back. And so I would always say to them, this is the note your substitute teacher. I am so proud of you all. And they knew that people outside the classroom knew how wonderful they were. And when I got feedback from the way they sat at chapel or the way they performed under specialist teachers, I would give them that feedback so they knew that it was not just me that saw them that way. Because uh, there were students that were in my class that were just good as gold in my class and got into problems all the time on the playground. So they knew that the perspective I had towards them was not necessarily the perspective of the whole world. And so that extended recognition was really powerful in their lives. So just be careful if you have a microphone, that if you have to say words that are more challenging or address a student's poorer choices, that you turn it off, because I've also made that mistake a couple times and that feels awful for sure. So in this video, we're talking about authentic praise and how we're shaping our students beyond academics and athletics. Positive reinforcement instills a sense of belonging, motivation, and potential, benefiting both the students and the teacher. Because as your student, you create this classroom dynamic. Of course, classroom management, behavior management is going to go way down, and it allows you time to do other things, which contributes towards you getting your weekends back. So if you haven't tried it out already, I highly recommend it. So are you ready to take your classroom management to the next level? Download my gift to you, the free classroom management checklist you can see over there on the right, and that will get you ready to get started on the path to better teacher self-care, because you can take your weekends off. Use the bit.ly link you see on the screen up there, or you can scan the QR code on your phone just to the right of me here. And you can also check down below, because I will put the link to my checklist down below. And yeah, so I hope you do that. You'll find yourself on my newsletter, and I'll share more evidence-based classroom management strategies. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing your time with me. Please join me again. You will see some suggested videos on the right of the screen. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. And if you have the time, I invite you to enjoy the videos that you see on the screen. Thanks again so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you soon. God bless. Bye for now.